a small rural village in eastern Uganda, surrounded by rolling green hills, banana plantations, and red clay roads that wind between clusters of thatched huts. Life here moves to the rhythm of roosters, market drums, and whispered stories past. From elder to child. In the quiet village of Kifonyo, nestled between the Mabira forest and the great river Nile, there lived a girl unlike any other. Her name was Nambi. From the moment she could walk, people noticed something different about her. A neck so long and slender that elders often whispered she'd been kissed by the spirit of the giraffe. At first, it was spoken of in hushed reverence, as if she were touched by something divine. But as Nambi grew, the whispers changed. The children laughed behind their hands. The women averted their eyes. The men who once smiled kindly at her mother now sneered or looked away. She was only 7 when she first heard the word monster. Her neck, graceful and elegant, became the object of mockery. She wore scarves in the heat, kept her head low in public, and avoided the village square during festivals. No matter how much her mother, Mama Kaka, reminded her, "You are not strange, you are chosen," Nambi never quite believed it. Kaka, a soft-spoken widow with strong arms and a soft heart, raised Nambi alone after her husband drowned crossing a swollen Nile during a storm. The villagers said his spirit had cursed the family, that Nambi's unnatural neck was proof. Kaka ignored them. She baked cassava for the market, stitched mats for the elders, and never let her tears fall where her daughter could see. But village life is cruel to the different. And school was crueler. "Do your bones stretch at night, Nambi? Can you see the moon before the rest of us? Maybe you should marry a giraffe instead." Laughter followed her like a shadow. Only one boy, Wasik, her neighbor and friend since childhood, ever dared to sit beside her at lunch. He didn't flinch when others laughed. He would look them in the eye and say, "Beauty takes many shapes. You only know one." He was the only softness in a world that felt sharpened against her. He brought her mangoes when she cried. He walked her home from school when her legs trembled. But even he, bold as he was, couldn't stop the tide of cruelty that slowly drowned her spirit. At 13, Nambi stopped speaking at school. At 14, she asked her mother if she could stop going altogether. At 15, she began to dream. Dreams of faraway cities, of television screens, of beauty queens with long necks and radiant smiles. But every time she woke, reality struck her like the village bell at dawn, cold, loud, and unrelenting, and yet something stirred in her, quietly, like the roots of a baobab. Pushing against stone, she began drawing in secret, sketches of gowns, queens and runway lights. She cut old cloths and made doll dresses. She walked with books on her head to improve her posture, not because she hated her neck, but because, deep down, she began to wonder, what if her mother had been right? All along, what if her neck wasn't a curse but a crown? But dreams in Kifunyo were luxuries for the rich or the sons of chiefs. For girls like Nambi, the mocked, the laughed at, the forgotten dreams were just paper boats in a flooded stream. Still, even paper can hold fire, and one day something would ignite her spirits so fiercely, it would change the course of her life forever. The seasons changed slowly in Kifunyo. The rains fell in sheets, then parted to reveal fields of sunflowers and cassava. But for Nambi, time moved in aching silence. Now 16, she spent her days helping Mama Kaka in the fields and sewing under the shade of the mango tree. She hardly spoke unless spoken to, though her mind was louder than ever, full of color, design, and dreams she dared not say aloud. But one person refused to let her fade into silence. Wasik, now taller and stronger, worked part-time with his uncle, a mechanic in the nearby trading center. Grease on his hands, ambition in his eyes, he never stopped checking on Nambi, bringing her fabrics from town, showing her magazine clippings of fashion models from Nairobi and Johannesburg. "Look," he'd say, placing them on the mat. Beside her, "They pay women for looking like this." Nambi would smile faintly, brushing her braids from her face. "That's not me." "You think so?" he'd say, "but one day they will line up to take photos of you." But she didn't believe him, not truly. She had spent too many years being the village's oddity. Even if Wasik saw her differently, the rest of the world never would. Still, she began to sew at night. By the dim light of a cracked lantern, she stitched old fabrics into strange, bold designs. Some with high collars, others with open shoulders to show her frame. And when Mama Kaka was asleep, she would slip them on, standing in front of the mirror shard nailed behind their hut, practicing. Smiles she had never dared to wear outside. Then one morning, the village erupted with noise. A flyer had been posted at the trading center, East Africa's next fashion queen, a search for bold beauty. Ages 16 to 24, auditions in Kampala. Wasik ran all the way to Nambi's home, the flyer clutched in his palm like a sacred scroll. "This is it?" he panted, his eyes alight with excitement. "You have to go, you're perfect for this," she blinked. "Kampala? I've never even been past Jinja. I'll help you. I'll get you there. You've already got the designs. You just need to wear them and believe." Her heart pounded. Fear and fire collided in her chest. Her fingers trembled as she took the flyer. Kampala, the capital, where the streets were full of cars and billboards, where no one knew her, where they didn't call her Nambi the Neck. She hid the flyer beneath her mattress. That night, she showed it to her mother. Kaka read it in silence, her weathered fingers brushing the edges of the paper. Then she looked up, tears in her eyes. "You want to go?" Nambi nodded. Kaka paused. "They will laugh again." "I know. They might not choose you." "I know. Then why go?" Nambi's voice was soft but steady. "Because I'm tired of hiding. Because Wasik believes I can. Because maybe I believe it too." Her mother smiled then, the same smile she had worn the day she gave birth under the stars. "Then go. Take my blessing." But nothing in Kifunya stayed secret for long. By the next market day, the village was buzzing. "She wants to be a model? With that neck? She thinks Kampala will welcome a girl like her? They'll laugh her out of the city." Even the elders chuckled over their roasted maize. Wasik confronted them. "You mock what you don't understand." But they turned on him too. "And you, dreaming with her. Mechanics should fix engines, not chase illusions." Still, he helped Nambi stitch her best work, a golden dress made from layered banana fibers and dyed cloth, designed to accentuate the very thing they all mocked, her neck. She wasn't hiding it anymore. The journey to Kampala was long and bumpy. Wasik managed to borrow money from his uncle for transport. He rode with her to the city, past the forests, past the towns, into the chaos of honking taxis and crowded pavements. At the audition center, girls with high heels, perfect weaves, and glossy lipstick lined up like queens. Nambi stood among them, her sandals dusty, her neck tall, her dress handmade, and for the first time, she held her head high. A judge looked at her profile and whispered something to another. Nambi caught it. Interesting. Unusual frame. Wasik squeezed her hand. "That's a good thing." Her audition was brief. She walked forward, paused, spoke her name, described her village, her designs. Her reason. "I came," she said, voice steady, "because I'm tired of hiding what others fear. This is me and I'm enough." They told her they'd call. Days passed. Then, just before she and Wasik boarded the bus back, her phone, an old, scratched thing Kaka had bought from a trader, buzzed. She'd made it to the next round. The return to Kifunyo should have been triumphant. Word of Nambi's success reached before she did. Children pointed as she passed. Some women whispered, maybe she really will be on TV. Even the men, once so quick to mock, now watched in silence. But the attention didn't feel like victory. It felt like a storm waiting to break. Nambi tried to focus on her next steps. She needed to prepare 3 outfits for the final selection round in Kampala, a televised event where the last 20 girls would compete in front of fashion houses, designers, and judges from across East Africa. Wasik was already gathering materials. "We'll get what you need," he said, his hands dusty with thread and ink. "We'll sell the radio if we have to. The world's about to know your name." But fame, even in small ripples, brings jealous eyes. One evening, after visiting her aunt for spare cloth, Nambi returned to find her home in disarray. Her designs, the 3 dresses she had poured her soul into, were gone, torn, burned, scattered across the dirt like discarded dreams. "Mama!" she screamed. Kaka stood beside the doorway, trembling, her eyes red. "I came back from the stream and found this." The door was open. Nambi dropped to her knees, gathering the ash in her fingers. Her throat closed. Her heart shattered. They were almost done, she whispered just then. A soft rustle in the bush behind the hut caught her attention. Osik burst through the trees, panting. His hands were cut, his shirt torn. I saw them, he gasped. It was Naliel and her brothers, Naliel, the chief's niece. Beautiful, proud, and known for her vanity. She had auditioned too, but didn't make it past the first round. Rumor was she told people she would never lose to a village giraffe. But why would she do this? Nambi asked, broken. Because you're a threat, Wasik said. Because you're rising and some people don't know how to accept that. The truth was bitter. Naliel's family was wealthy. She had options. But envy doesn't care about status, only attention. The next day, Nambi confronted her standing at the edge of the market. With villagers pretending not to listen, she faced Naliel directly. Why? She asked. What did I ever take from you? Naliel crossed her arms. You don't belong in Kampala. You barely belong here. You think because you have a long neck and a few rags, you can stand beside queens. You're embarrassing us. Nambi didn't flinch. You were afraid. Naliel's eyes narrowed. You'll never make it to the top, no matter how tall your neck is. Nambi returned home in silence. That night, as Mama Kaka gently cleaned the tears from her daughter's cheeks, Wasik placed something on her lap, a half-sewn dress. I started this, he said, voice shaking. Before yours were destroyed, I wanted to surprise you. Maybe it's not perfect, but we can build from it. She looked at the fabric, bold red, shaped with curves, designed with love. Something in her cracked, but not in weakness. In awakening. Her dream wasn't about a crown. Anymore. It was about proving she had the right to exist loudly. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. Everywhere Nambi went, she felt the eyes. Some watched with quiet admiration, others with pity, and many, like Naliel, with unveiled contempt. But beneath the silence, a decision was forming. A quiet rebellion rising in her chest. I won't let her win, Nambi whispered one evening, fingers running across the rough edge of the half-finished red dress Wasik had given her. But we've lost everything, Mama Kaka said gently. We have no more fabric, no thread, no shoes. Not even money for the bus to Kampala. I'll find a way. The next morning, Nambi did something no one expected. She walked to the village square with her head held high and a list in her hand, a list of everything she needed, fabrics, needles, zippers, shoes, and bus fare. Then she stood beside the water well, where women gathered every day and spoke. I need your help, she said, voice firm. The chatter stopped. Heads turned. Eyes widened. I know many of you laughed at me, she continued, not with bitterness but calm truth. You said I was chasing dreams meant for rich girls or pretty girls or girls without necks like mine. And maybe I believed you once, but no more. Silence. I've been chosen for the final round. I made it to the top 20 in East Africa. I was ready. And then someone came and tried to break me. She paused, looked each woman in the eye. But I am still here. And if I must stitch dresses from maize husks and banana bark, I will. But I'm not quitting. A few murmurs, then an old widow named Jayawandi stepped forward. She had never said much to Nambi, but now she placed a hand on her shoulder. You remind me of my sister. She was mocked too. They said her voice was too loud for a woman, but she became the first female preacher in this region. Don't let them silence your light, child. Then she reached into her worn bag and handed Nambi 3 folded kitnage fabrics. For your dresses, another woman followed. Then another. By sundown, Nambi had thread, cloth, even old heels someone had stored since the 90s. Enough for 3 outfits. Enough for the journey back. Back at home, Nambi and Wasik worked like spirits possessed. He fixed broken sandals with wire. She sewed through the night by lantern light, pausing only to rest her eyes before sunrise. Her mother cooked and hummed softly, filling the home with warmth even when food was scarce. On the 3rd night, Nambi stood before the cracked mirror. Dressed in her final piece, a sky-blue dress with bold gold embroidery across the neckline designed to draw attention. Not deflected. Her neck, long, proud, unhidden, caught the candlelight. Like polished bronze, she didn't flinch this time. The journey to Kampala was harder this time. The bus was crowded. They had to stand for part of the way. The city smelled of dust, sweat, and potential. They arrived at dawn, tired but full of silent resolve. The venue was buzzing. Cameras, spotlights, girls dressed in glittering gowns. Designers with clipboards and earpieces moved like bees through the hall. Nambi was the only one wearing handmade clothes. The other contestants whispered, some openly mocking her rustic outfits. One girl with a diamond-studded nose ring snorted. Is she serious? Is that banana bark on her dress? Nambi smiled. Yes, some with goat tendon too. And love. A judge overheard. He looked at her. You made this yourself? She nodded. Interesting. The competition began. Each contestant had to walk the runway, explain her outfit, and answer one deep personal question from the panel. When Nambi stepped into the spotlight, the audience went silent. There was something about her presence. Not beauty in the commercial sense, but something unignorable. Like a tree standing alone in a dry field, refusing to fall. She walked with grace. Her neck regal. Her gaze unbroken, she stopped at center stage and spoke, her voice strong. My name is Nambi from Kipunyo village. I was mocked all my life because of the way I look. My neck made me a target. But I realized the thing they tried to shame me for is the thing that makes me different, and different is powerful. Applause. Slow, then rising dot, then came the judge's question. If you win this competition, what would you tell the girls back home who feel too different to dream? Nambi didn't hesitate. I'd tell them, don't let your difference become your prison. Let it be your crown. If they laugh, let them, but keep walking. Because one day they'll watch you and remember they laughed and feel shame. The applause became thunder. Even the judge leaned back, stunned. Backstage, Nambi found a quiet corner. She was shaking. The weight of all the years, the taunts, the dreams. The fire it took just to reach this place. Wasik found her there. Quietly, he placed his hand on hers. I'm proud of you, he said. Even if you don't win, you already won. She looked at him then, really looked. And for the first time, she saw it, not just the boy who brought her mangoes and magazines, but a man who had believed in her when no one else did. I wouldn't be here without you. He smiled. You always had it in you. I just reminded you. The results would come later that night. But in that moment, under the Kampala sky, surrounded by noise and city lights, Nambi felt peace. Not because of a trophy, not because of revenge, but because she had stopped hiding. And the world hadn't ended. In fact, it had begun. The night of the final announcement arrived with a tension so thick, it wrapped around Nambi's chest like a vine. Backstage, the top 5 contestants stood in a row beneath golden lights. Nambi, radiant in her banana fiber dress and leather sandals, stood beside girls wearing gowns imported from Italy and heels that cost more than her entire village owned. The host took the stage. His voice boomed through the speakers. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. He glanced at the glittering envelope in his hand. The crowd leaned forward. Cameras zoomed in. The judges sat motionless. In 5th place. Applause. A name, a flash of a disappointed smile. 4th place. Another burst of claps. Another girl stepping back, nodding politely. 3rd place. It wasn't Nambi. Then it was down to 2. The host turned, eyes gleaming. And now, the final 2 contestants standing before you are Nambi Eotand of Kifonyo village and Safira Muhoza of Kigali. A pause. Somewhere in the audience, a murmur rose. People knew Safira. She came from a powerful family. Her father owned a modeling agency, and her mother once posed for East African Vogue. She was breathtaking. Tall, fair-skinned, symmetrical, poised. But standing next to her, Nambi didn't seem smaller. She seemed grounded. Like a tree that had fought through storms and refused to break. And the winner of this year's East Africa Rising Star competition is a heartbeat. Nambi Eotund. The crowd erupted. Shouts, gasps, camera flashes. One judge even stood in applause, but Nambi couldn't move. She blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. Safira didn't clap. Instead, she stormed off the stage, heels clicking like gunshots across marble. The host gestured toward Nambi, beaming. Come forward, child. She walked slowly, heart thundering in her chest. When the crown touched her head, a delicate piece shaped like a sunrise, she felt it in her bones. This wasn't just victory, it was redemption. For the next 3 months, Nambi's life transformed like a dream inside a whirlwind. Photo shoots in Nairobi, interviews in Lusaka. Her story, the girl with the long neck who refused to bow, trended across African blogs. Designers fought to dress her. Journalists quoted her speech. "Let your difference be your crown" became a slogan. She even received a message from House of Zara inviting her to their Paris showcase as an emerging African face. Mama Kaka wept when the letter arrived, but fame, Nambi soon learned, was not just glitter and light. It had shadows. One evening, as she sat in her hotel room in Johannesburg, staring at a glowing phone screen, something caught her attention down an article. Is Nambi Aotund really who she says she is? Inside the scandal the judges didn't see. Her stomach dropped. She clicked. The piece was written anonymously, but it was vicious. It accused her of lying about her past, saying she exaggerated her poverty to gain sympathy. It claimed her family wasn't poor, that she had never been mocked, and worse, that she stole her dress designs from a former contestant. Attached were fabricated interviews, blurry photos, and screenshots of WhatsApp messages supposedly from her. It was a character assassination. And the worst part? One of the fake messages was signed, "Let them keep praising her. I'll show them what she really is." Under the message, "Not lo you uli," her heart thudded against her ribs. Her hands trembled. The press began to call. Emails flooded in. Sponsors wanted clarification. The Paris invitation was under review. She sat frozen, tears stinging her eyes. All the pain, all the struggle erased in a few screens of lies. Wasik came running into her hotel room minutes later. He had seen it too. "I'll speak up," he said immediately. "We'll go live. We'll tell the truth." But Nambi shook her head. "They'll say I'm making excuses," she whispered. "They'll say I'm playing victim again." Her voice cracked. "What if I lose everything?" Wasik knelt in front of her, taking her face in his hands. "Then we lose it together. But you will not hide again. Not now, not after everything you fought for." The next day, she went live on social media, dressed in the same sky blue dress from the finals. She stood under natural light, no makeup, no edits, and spoke her truth. "I never needed to lie," she began. "My story is painful, but it's mine. I was mocked, I was burned. I was called village giraffe by girls whose families now try to erase my name." She paused, holding up a photo, her burned dresses, taken after the sabotage. "This is what truth looks like. And if you doubt me, come to Kifunyo. Ask the women at the well. Ask the boy who stitched my heels with copper wire. Ask my mother, who gave up her only earrings to help me chase this dream." Her voice grew stronger. "If they take my crown, I will survive. But I will not give up my dignity. Not for Paris, not for money, not for silence." She ended the video with one final line. "They mocked me because of my neck, but it taught me to hold my head high." The video spread like wildfire. Celebrities reposted it. Fans created #HashtagGS. Stand with Nambi #Let her rise. The truth burned away the lies. Within 48 hours, the modeling agency from Paris not only reinstated her, they offered her a lead spot. Email ended with, "True beauty is truth under pressure. You, Nambi, are exactly what the world needs." Back in Kifunyo, the village held a celebration unlike anything they had ever seen. Children wore paper crowns. Annies cooked pilaf and roasted goat. Even the chief himself, once silent in her struggles, stood before the crowd and offered her a formal apology on behalf of the community. Nalil did not attend. But Nambi noticed someone quietly standing at the edge of the gathering. Safira, the girl she had defeated in the finals. "I expected you to hate me," Nambi said when she approached. Safira shook her head. "I came to tell you something. After I lost, I was angry. I wanted to believe the rumors, but I watched your video. I saw the fire in your eyes. And I realized you didn't just win because you were different. You won because you refused to become bitter." She held out a small notebook. "I design now. Real designs. I want to learn from you." Nambi smiled, humbled. "Then come, we rise together." That night, under a sky thick with stars, Nambi sat beside Wasik on the rooftop of her home. The village buzzed below. Music played. Laughter echoed. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you remember? she whispered, when I said I never belong in a world of lights and cameras. I remember, he said. But I always knew the world was waiting for you. To stop apologizing for your shine, she smiled. It's still hard. Still scary. But you're not alone anymore, he said, wrapping his arm around her. In the distance, a radio played a familiar jingle, an ad for the Paris show featuring her voice. The girl they called a giraffe was now the face of an empire. A year passed, 12 moons since the night Nambi stood barefoot on the rooftop of her home, looking out at the stars with Wasik beside her. 12 months of travel, of growth, of healing, and of change. Paris had welcomed her not with cold stares or skeptical eyes, but with open arms. She had walked the grandest runways, Chanel, Dior, and even Nazen Afrique. But she never forgot what brought her there. It wasn't her long neck. It wasn't the crown. It was the fire inside her. But even as her name echoed through fashion capitals, Nambi's heart remained tied to Kifinho. And so, one golden morning, as the sun poured over the red hills of her village, she returned. Not as a model. Not as a celebrity, but as a daughter coming home. The dusty road that led into Kifinho had not changed, still rough. Still lined with wild acacia trees and laughing children who kicked hand-stitched footballs made of cloth and rubber. But the people, they had changed, not because of wealth, not because of fame, but because they had seen what hope looked like with a long neck and burned dresses. And they believed again in themselves and their daughters and the power of one person who refuses to bow. Mama Kaka met her at the entrance to the village. Her hair had turned more silver than Nambi remembered, but her back was still straight and her arms still strong. They embraced for a long time. I told them you would. Fly, her mother whispered, brushing her daughter's braided hair. But I never imagined the whole world would fly with you. Later that day, Nambi walked to the old market square, the place where she'd once sold papayas. The same place where girls whispered and laughed behind her back. It had changed. A new building stood there now, modern but earthy, with carved wooden doors and a rooftop garden. Its sign read, The Tall Tree Academy, Fashion. Voice and dreams, Nambi stood in front of it, her eyes misty. It had taken months to build. She had funded every brick, every table, every sewing machine. Here, young girls from forgotten villages could come not just to model or sew, but to speak, to write, to dream. Girls with scars. Girls with a LBINI SM. Girls too tall, too dark, too shy, too different. Here, no one would tell them they were too much, or not enough. Inside the academy, a group of girls sat around a table, threading beads and humming a tune. A voice rang out, clear, bold, familiar. It was Naliel. She had changed too. Not overnight, and not with ease. But after Nambi's victory, Naliel had faced backlash, not from strangers, but from her own conscience. And for months she stayed away, watching from the shadows as Nambi continued to rise, not with vengeance, but with grace. Eventually she had come, broken, ashamed, and honest. I hated you because I hated myself, she confessed one day, kneeling before Nambi on the red earth. You reminded me of everything I feared, that I'd never be enough, that someone different could shine brighter than me. Nambi had said nothing at first. Then she helped her up. You don't have to bow, she whispered. Just begin again. And Noel did. She now taught design and color theory at the academy, and she'd become a favorite among the students. Weeks passed. One evening, the village gathered again in the same field where they once danced for the moon. Only this time, it wasn't for a crown or a speech. It was for a graduation. The first 10 girls from the Tall Tree Academy walked the stage that Nambi had built, each wearing a dress they had designed themselves, each standing tall, even those who once hid their faces in shame. Wasik, now her husband and co-founder, stood beside her. They clapped as a girl with vitiligo smiled and took a bow. They laughed when a girl with a stutter delivered the opening speech with fire in her eyes. This was what it had all been. For not for lights. Not for runways. But for this, for them. Later that night, Nambi stood alone near the old well. She looked at her reflection in the water, a long neck, proud shoulders, and eyes that had cried, burned, and seen the world. A girl who had once hated that neck now wore it like a crown. She thought of her journey, of the cruelty. Of the jealousy, of the betrayal, of the letter that nearly broke her, of the video that saved her, of the woman she'd become, not despite the pain, but because of it. She whispered, softly to the wind as if speaking to the younger version of herself. Your neck is not a cursed dot, it is the trunk of the tree that kept growing, even when the world tried to cut it down. As the fireflies danced above the grass and music rose once again from the village square, Nambi walked back into the light. This time, she didn't walk behind anyone, she didn't walk to prove anything, she walked because she belonged, not just in Kifunyo, not just in Paris but in her own skin. She was no longer the girl they mocked. She was the woman they remembered, the one who turned shame into strength, the one who taught a village how to love its daughters, the one who stood tall and helped others rise. Moral reflection: sometimes the very thing they mock you for is the very thing that will carry you to greatness. They laughed at Nambi's long neck, but her neck held up not just her head, it held up a generation of girls who now believe they can rise too. In a world that tries to shrink you, grow anyway. Stand tall, even if your roots come from dust, because sometimes the tallest trees grow from the smallest, most broken seeds.